Hello and welcome back to the channel where I provide daily cricket content on interesting topics. In today's video I am going to touch on a topic which to those outside of cricket probably wouldn't associate with the sport: toughness. I always argue that cricket is one of the scariest sports out there, even more so than some of the combat sports. The reason being, if a bowler is steaming in with a new ball on a hard pitch, the batsman can't physically fight back. He has to just wait up the other end for the bowler to decide whether he is going to try to hurt him or not. For anyone who has batted against genuine pace, I am sure you can appreciate that nervous feeling as the bowler is running in. So then, to my list of the 5 toughest cricketers, let's dive in. Number 5, Michael Clarke. Now to look at Clarke, you wouldn't immediately place him high in your list of tough cricketers. With his Australian surfer looks and a gold earring, it is easy to make prejudgments. But for one innings against South Africa, he places at number 5 in my list. The scene was the intimidating Cape Town during the Australian 2014-2015 tour. Batting in the first innings, Australia scored just shy of 500, thanks to centuries from David Warner and Clarke. But it had been anything but easy. Clarke particularly endured a torrid spell of pace and bounce from Morne Morkel, and took repeated blows on the body before ultimately finishing not out on 161. What made this century so impressive was that during the barrage from Morkel, Clarke had sustained a broken shoulder. Not only did he continue to bat on, he did so with a poker face throughout his mammoth innings. He did not retire hurt, he just batted and batted in what he later judged to be his finest innings, which ultimately won Australia the game. Number 4, Malcolm Marshall. Malcolm Marshall is known to be one of the greatest bowlers of all time and made up the quartet of quicks which terrorized the world during the 80s. You'd probably think that he would be best known for causing the injuries as opposed to receiving them himself. But in 1984, whilst playing against England at Headingley, he broke his thumb in 2 places. On day 3, thanks in the main to a partnership between Larry Gomez and, surprisingly, Michael Holding, West Indies took a lead. When the number 9 batsman was out, everyone assumed the innings would draw to a close with Gomez stranded on 96 not out. But to the crowd and the English team's surprise, out walked Marshall smiling cheerfully with bat in hand. He then proceeded to bat one-handed and helped Gomez get through to his deserved century. Whilst some of the English players laughed at his attempt to bat one-handed, they weren't laughing when he came on to bowl during the English innings. Running in as if he couldn't feel the pain pulsing, though his left hand, Marshall tore through England, taking 7 for 53 to win the game for the Windies. Number 3, Andrew Symonds. This selection in my team is a bit of fun and takes on another interpretation of the word tough. In this case I am referring to a toughness in that you simply wouldn't want to get on the wrong side of Symonds. Standing at 6 feet 2 inches with shoulders like a rugby player, Symonds cut a naturally intimidating figure. If you passed him in the street, you'd probably have thought he was more likely to be a boxer than a cricketer. It is actually true that Symonds once considered a switch to rugby league, and he proved he wouldn't be out of place during a one-day match in 2008. With Australia batting in a tense game, the crowd's attention was suddenly drawn to a naked streaker charging around the field. The man made a beeline for the wicket and headed towards an angry-looking Symonds. What followed could have been something out of the NFL, with Symonds standing his ground before dropping a shoulder into the fan. This shoulder barge took the streaker off his feet, immediately flattening him to the ground. The stewards and crowd looked stunned before Symonds nonchalantly went back to the crease. It was actually the second time he had taught a streaker a lesson. Don't mess with Andrew Symonds. Number 2, Salim Malik. For this edition I have to thank one of the viewers of the channel, Majid Khan. Majid brought my attention to a staggering instance of bravery by Pakistani batsman Salim Malik. Malik was a quite understated figure in that, like Michael Clarke, you wouldn't immediately associate him with toughness. But in the 1986 Faisalabad Test match versus the West Indies, he proved himself to be one of the toughest in the world. In the first innings, Courtney Walsh reared a ball up from the relayed pitch and hit Malik just above the left wrist, instantly fracturing it in the process. Like Malcolm Marshall in Headingley when the 9th wicket fell in Pakistan's second innings, players and crowd alike assumed that was the end of the innings. But Malik had other plans. Suddenly, somewhat unexpectedly, there was a cheer from the crowd. A figure emerged from the pavilion, walking down the steps, past the sight screen, his left arm cast in a plaster. Malik walked up to the pitch, and to the astonishment of everyone, took a left-handed stance against Walsh. Malik then proceeded to switch between batting left and right-handed, trying anything to survive. Walsh's first ball at a right-handed Malik knocked the bat out of his hand, but Malik clung on. He finished on 3 not out off of 14 balls and had put on a vital 32 for the last wicket. Pakistan would go on to win that match in stunning style, with Abdul Qadir taking 6 for 16. Number 1. Brian Close. Close was never a great batsman. His highest score in 22 test matches, spread over 27 summers, was 70. But when it came to demonstrations of physical courage, he knew no equal in the history of the game. Close the Warrior is one of the game's most enduring images. A century from now, people will still be talking of that savage evening in July 1976 when Close and John Edrich, opening the batting against West Indies on a cracked pitch at Old Trafford. Close, by this point a 45-year-old, faced without flinching the ferocious fast bowling of Michael Holding, Andy Roberts and Wayne Daniel. Batting without a helmet, chest or arm guard, Close proceeded to take blow after blow to his body from the fearsome attack. Close was pounded for around 2.5 hours in one of the most brutal displays of fast bowling ever seen. Wisden even described the bowling as bordering unacceptable. Several balls thundered into his ribcage, and when he removed his shirt on close of play, the vivid bruises on his chest looked like the bullet holes on a marksman's target practice. Close was critical of the wicket, stating, "The faster the West Indians bowled, the worse it got because the balls broke through the surface of the wicket. They exploded and flew at you." High finished his innings and his test career scoring a painful 20 runs from 108 balls. This was just one example of his guts. He had actually endured a similar beating way earlier in his career in 1963. It wasn't just batting where Close was known for his toughness, he was also a terrifically brave close fielder. Once, fielding 2 yards from the bat at short leg, a catch rebounded off his skull and was pouched at second slip. Close brushed that off with a celebration and a joke with his concerned teammates. I could go on and on with tales of Brian Close's bravery, but suffice to say he will be remembered as the toughest of them all. So that concludes my list. I do have to give a special mention to Anil Kumble and his show of bravery, both batting and bowling with a broken jaw against the West Indies in 2002. Viv Richards described this as the bravest thing he had ever seen in a cricket field, so it would be wrong for me not to mention it. I included Simmons for a bit of fun, but if toughness was just coping with pain and injury, the great Indian spinner would have been in his place. Thanks for watching everyone. Feel free to mention any other acts of toughness in the comments.